Zapp Brannigan might be one of the most popular characters on Futurama. The brash Captain Kirk caricature has been played by Billy West, who also voices Philip Fry, among others, since the show's inception in 1999. But West wasn't actually the first person cast in the role. Originally, the part of Brannigan was created specifically for Saturday Night Live alum Phil Hartman, who played similar characters like Troy McClure on Matt Groening's other show, The Simpsons. Before Futurama started recording the voices for its first episodes, though, Hartman was killed by his wife in a horrific murder-suicide that rocked Hollywood. In the aftermath, his character Bill McNeil on the live-action sitcom News Radio was given an emotional send-off, but Futurama hadn't hit the airwaves yet, so Groening looked to West to fill Hartman's shoes. While there have long been rumors about Hartman having recorded samples as Brannigan before production, no such tape has ever materialized. In 2010, former ER star Maura Tierney was cast in Parenthood, a loose adaptation of the 1989 Steve Martin comedy of the same name. In the series pilot, Tierney played Sarah Braverman, who, with her 2 children, moves back in with her parents after her divorce. The pilot episode was strong enough to get the series picked up, but when it debuted on screens that fall, Tierney was nowhere to be found, replaced by Gilmore Girls star Lauren Graham. At the time, The Hollywood Reporter reported Tierney dropped out of the series after filming the pilot when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. With extensive life-saving treatment needed, Tierney couldn't commit to the series and exited the show to focus on her health. All of her scenes in that pilot episode were removed, and Graham came aboard to play Sarah Braverman. Thankfully, Tierney recovered and has gone on to appear in numerous TV shows and movies since. The long-running British series Doctor Who owes its longevity to the concept of regeneration, where the series lead, an immortal alien who travels time and space, is reborn after death in a new body. This has allowed the show to recast the lead multiple times. But while the first regeneration of original series star William Hartnell was necessitated by the aging actor's poor health, the exit of the show's third Doctor, John Pertwee, was even more heartbreaking. According to Pertwee, it was the death of Roger Delgado, who played his arch-enemy the Master, that made him reevaluate his time on the show. Delgado died in a car accident while filming a TV show in Turkey.
Roger had been killed, and I was very upset about that. And I wouldn't want to really have worked with any other actor playing the Master.
The end result, of course, was the arrival of future legend Tom Baker in the role of the Fourth Doctor. The Master, meanwhile, was recast too, with Peter Pratt and Geoffrey Beevers playing the character in his next 2 appearances before being replaced by Anthony Ainley for the rest of the 1980s. In the 1990s, a smash hit sitcom, That 70s Show, recast one of their main supporting characters. Series co-star Lisa Robin Kelly, who played Topher Grace's on-screen sister Laurie Forman, disappeared in its 4th season, returning for a handful of episodes in season 5 before being entirely recast with Christina Moore. In 2012, Kelly finally revealed on ABC News that she left the show due to spiraling substance abuse issues sparked by a tragic miscarriage.
I had lost a baby. As a result of that, I lost everything, and I was abusing alcohol.
Sadly, just a year after that interview though, Kelly died in her sleep mere days after voluntarily checking herself into a rehab facility. It's hard to calculate the impact of Jim Henson on Hollywood. The celebrated puppeteer and voice actor was responsible for iconic characters on screens big and small, from The Muppets and Fraggle Rock to Labyrinth. When Henson died, however, the beloved children's TV series Sesame Street may have been dealt the hardest blow when Henson passed in 1990, as he had been the show's guiding force since its inception in 1969. Henson had created most of the puppets on the show, and also provided the voices for some of the most iconic characters, including Guy Smiley, Ernie, and Kermit the Frog. Following Henson's death, Steve Whitmire took over both Ernie and Kermit, while Smiley was all but retired from the show until puppeteer Eric Jacobson revived the part beginning in 2005. After the success of HBO's Rome, rival network stars created Spartacus, Blood and Sand, a big-budget historical epic centered on the infamous Roman gladiator who led a slave revolt against the Roman Empire. Andy Whitfield filled the title role, but after the show's first season, he had to leave the series following a cancer diagnosis. Though the series went forward with a prequel, Spartacus, Gods of the Arena, to avoid recasting Spartacus, Whitfield tragically never recovered. He died in September 2011, and the role was ultimately filled by Liam McIntyre, who picked up the sword and sandals and led the show's next outing, Spartacus Vengeance, in 2012. Before his passing, Whitfield filmed a documentary along with his widow, Vashti Whitfield, which chronicled his battle with cancer in an attempt to raise awareness for other patients.
He wanted to bring purpose to it and our journey.
The 1960s sitcom Bewitched is famous for recasting its lead actor halfway through the show's run, with Dick Sargent mysteriously replacing Dick York as Darrin Stevens for its last 3 seasons. Unfortunately, despite the show's best efforts to accommodate York's failing health, his chronic back issues became too difficult to manage, and Sargent was brought in to replace him. Darrin wasn't the only character to get replaced though. Obnoxious neighbor Mrs. Kravitz had to be recast after season 3 too, and the reason was even more devastating. Original actor Alice Pierce had been diagnosed with cancer before the show even began filming, and she succumbed to the disease just 2 years later. Her replacement, Sandra Gould, held down the role for the rest of the series, and even returned as Mrs. Kravitz for the short-lived spin-off, Tabitha. Primetime 80s soap opera Dynasty got a 2017 reboot with a broad ensemble cast that included Nicolette Sheridan as Alexis Carrington, the ex-wife of billionaire Blake Carrington. When Alexis turned up again in season 3 though, she was suddenly played by series star Elizabeth Gillies, who ordinarily played Alexis's daughter, Fallon. Gillies was put under heavy makeup in a storyline that saw Alexis recovering from extensive plastic surgery, and she was replaced permanently by Elaine Hendricks for seasons 4 and beyond. So, why was the change necessary? Sadly, Sheridan revealed in a statement that she had stepped away from the show to spend time with her mother, who had been diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. Sheridan said, "The chance to spend precious time with my terminally ill mother is more important to me right now." She added in an interview with Access Hollywood that she considered her mother, actor Sally Adams, to be her personal hero.
I feel blessed that I am able to be here in Los Angeles with her and be by her side at this part of her journey.
In the 1960s, sitcoms centered around rural Americans were all the rage, and one of the biggest TV hits was Green Acres, about a big city lawyer who starts a new life on a farm with his wife. Set in the same fictional universe as Petticoat Junction, another rural-themed network hit, the series also featured Barbara Pepper in the role of Doris Ziffel, the couple's elderly neighbor. The character originated on Petticoat Junction before making the move to Acres. Tragedy struck after season 3 though, when Pepper died suddenly from a blood clot at the age of 54. She'd been something of a recurring regular, appearing in 30 episodes in its first 3 seasons, but after Pepper's passing, the role of Doris was reduced, with incoming actor Fran Ryan taking over for the show's subsequent seasons. Few cartoons in the 2000s had as much of a cultural influence as Samurai Jack, which told the story of a young samurai prince who returns after years away from home on a mission to defeat the powerful demon called Aku. Aku was played by Japanese actor Marco, who might be best known to movie fans as Akiro the Wizard in Arnold Schwarzenegger's Conan the Barbarian films. Samurai Jack ran for 4 seasons starting in 2001 and was revived for a 5th season more than a decade later. By then, Marco had passed away, dying from esophageal cancer in 2006 at the age of 72. The show's creator, Genndy Tartakovsky, told The Verge, "It was hard. For a while, I thought we should reimagine Aku with a different voice, perhaps even use a different character, but then I realized I loved Aku too much." In the end, voice actor Greg Baldwin, who previously had taken over Marco's character Uncle Iroh on Avatar: The Last Airbender, stepped into the role. Tartakovsky said, "Honestly, nobody can replace Marco. He was that special, that unique, especially the performance he made for Aku, but Greg did really well." By the early 90s, it was fairly common for big screen comedies to spawn TV adaptations. So, Harry and the Hendersons was no surprise. Adapted from the film about a Bigfoot who was adopted by a suburban family, the 3-season series Harry and the Hendersons had stuntman Kevin Peter Hall, better known for portraying the titular creature in Predator, reprising his role as Harry from the film. In late 1991 though, Hall died unexpectedly at just 35 years old. Tragically, following a devastating car accident, Hall was given a blood transfusion that turned out to be contaminated with HIV, which ultimately took his life. Following his death, stunt actors DeJuan Scott and Patrick Pinney took over playing the eponymous Harry for the remainder of the series. The Mary Tyler Moore Show was so popular it launched several spin-offs, including Phyllis in 1975. The show starred Cloris Leachman, who continued to play Mary's narcissistic ex-neighbor, Phyllis Lindstrom. Barbara Colby co-starred as Phyllis's boss, photographer Julie Erskine, a character she'd originated on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. But after just 3 episodes were filmed of Phyllis, Colby was murdered alongside acting student James F. Kiernan, killed by an unknown shooter who ambushed them as they were leaving an acting class. Though a group of suspects were initially apprehended, Colby's killer was never identified, and no motive was ever determined. For the remainder of the first season of Phyllis, Erskine was played by Liz Torres, but the character was dropped from the series after that. The Star Trek franchise has its share of recasts for a variety of reasons, whether due to contract disputes or scheduling conflicts. But in 1990, the franchise was forced to find a new actor to play the villain in a Season 3 episode of Star Trek The Next Generation for one of the most tragic reasons imaginable. In the episode The Most Toys, British actor David Rappaport was chosen to play Kivas Fajo, an unscrupulous cosmic collector who kidnaps the android Commander Data to add him to his treasure trove. Rappaport got his start in UK television and later appeared in films like Time Bandits. He even had a show of his own, The Wizard, which ran for 2 years in the late 1980s. Unfortunately, during production on The Most Toys, Rappaport was forced to bow out after he attempted to take his own life. Sol Rubinek stepped in to play Fajo, but just 3 days before the episode premiered, Rappaport died by suicide on May 2nd, 1990. Rappaport's unfinished work as Fajo was later released on the Next Generation Blu-ray release in 2013. If you or someone you know is struggling or in crisis, help is available. Call or text 988 or chat 988lifeline.org.